who is doing nothing to keep this ship from going down, because the great one here now to explain all now. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neal Cavuto, and same old ship, different day.
I came here to cut the size of government. That's exactly what this bill does. And why conservatives wouldn't vote for this or criticize the bill is beyond any recognition I could come up with. But when groups come out and criticize an agreement that they've never seen, you begin to wonder just how credible those actions are.
House Speaker John Boehner going off on conservative groups yet again who will not sign on to this budget accord, the one that keeps the government going for another couple of years. Neither will Senator Marco Rubio, by the way, which prompted this response from Republican deal maker Paul Ryan.
Read the deal and get back to me. In the minority, you don't have the burden of governing, of getting things done.
Ouch to Mark Levin, who told Paul Ryan himself that the deal was Mickey Mouse, the great one, on the phone with us now. Well, what is it? As you look at this, what are we looking at, Mark?
First of all, 2 years ago, they told us they cut a deal on the debt ceiling that would put in place for years to come a reduction in the increase in spending. 2 years later, they just blew through the ceiling. That's what this deal does. That's number one. Number two, $23 billion in savings over 10 years. Even if we have $23 billion in savings over 10 years, which we won't, that's $2.3 billion a year. We have about a $4 trillion budget each year. So that's about $44 trillion in a $23 billion savings. And the Republicans say, look, that's all we can do because we're in the minority. Is Barack Obama the only Democrat president we've ever had? Did Newt Gingrich take on Bill Clinton, a Democrat president? Haven't Republicans taken on Democrat presidents before? They lower the bar. They dumb it down so far, the Democrats are laughing at them, and then Boehner has the gall to attack conservatives. Neal, Jeff Sessions is the ranking Republican on the Senate Budget Committee. He rejects this. I don't think he was even consulted about it. Mitch McConnell, I'm no fan of Mitch McConnell. He opposes it. So it's not just conservative groups. It's a lot of Republicans who are looking at this and scratching their heads and saying this is a raw deal.
Their argument is that, and you're right about these savings, because what they failed to leave out is that we are still going to have, close to $5 trillion more in debt in 10 years than we do now. They're bragging about the fact that it won't be as much as we would have had otherwise, even though, as you said, it's a rounding error on a rounding error on a rounding error. But when Republicans argue that they don't want to risk another shutdown and keep the focus on Obamacare or whatever it is, what do you make of that argument that let's not get involved in a soap opera there? Let's move on so that we can have the winning argument and avoid any problems the media is going to stick on us later.
Here's the problem, then. They are creating a horrific precedent for future Republicans who actually want to help lead the country, even if they're in the minority from time to time. When you say we don't want to have a government shutdown, and you say it more than the Democrats, you keep revealing your hand. And so that means when we have a Democrat president, that the Democrat president's going to get a lot of what he wants, because the Republicans have already announced they're not going to use the power of the purse. They're not going to use it when it comes to Obamacare, when it comes to Dodd-Frank, when it comes to the debt ceiling, when it comes to continuing resolutions. So what are they going to do? They're going to keep coming up with these cockamamie deals, which get worse and worse and worse. Meanwhile, Neal, we have over $90 trillion in unfunded liabilities, $17.3 trillion almost in fiscal operating debt, and they don't even have a plan to deal with it. Even the Ryan plan a few years ago didn't deal with it. The Republicans have to give the American people a vision. They have to give the American people a choice. Do I expect them to win every battle because they control the House? No. But I expect them to fight them.
All right. Now, when I was talking to Mitch McConnell the other day, his point was government shutdowns or pushing your point to the point where you do shut the government down isn't a winning argument. And he was taking sort of a backhanded slap at Ted Cruz for that. What do you make of that?
Well, Mitch McConnell really ought to study his history. He doesn't even have to go that far back. He can go back to Ronald Reagan. He can go back to Newt Gingrich. You know why we call these men leaders? Because they were leaders. And the fact of the matter is, if it were easy, we could always control the presidency and the Senate and the House, and we wouldn't need leaders. You could have chimpanzees doing this. The fact of the matter is, I blame Mitch McConnell in many respects for this, too, because he's the one who first came out of the box and said, no, we can't have a government shutdown. He even went further. He was prepared to give the President of the United States, the most radical profligate spender in American history, the power of the purse temporarily to make the decision ultimately on raising the debt ceiling.
Well, then how do you reconcile the fact that Rand Paul likes him, that a fellow Kentuckian, Rand Paul, thinks he's okay?
Look, I can only speak for myself. I don't care who likes this one and who likes that one. I don't know what's going on up there on Capitol Hill. I just don't like most of it. And I want John Boehner to know something. He, his staff, his leadership are constantly calling people in advance of votes, telling them what's coming before the public knows in these bills. For him to get up there and beat his chest and talk about how do these conservative groups know what's in the bill? What do you mean? Your whole leadership's leaking it all over Washington, D.C. That's how we know it's in the bill.
Well, you do have a very good point there. This was well trumpeted and telegraphed. But let me ask you, I don't think I'm imagining this, Mark, and you and I have chatted about this before, but now I think all of this is out in the open, this friction among various factions, whatever you want to call it, within the Republican Party, those who want to hold the spenders accountable and really rein it in aggressively and by any means possible, and those who are the go slow approach, let's focus on winning the prize, and then we'll come back to addressing these issues. But when I hear John Boehner 2 days running attack conservatives, Mitch McConnell with me going after this group that funds conservative Senate candidates, I'm beginning to sense that now they're not only thinking it, they're saying it, and they're out in the open, bemoaning it. And I'm wondering whether that's a good or a bad thing. What do you think?
It's a good thing because they need to be defeated. It's a good thing so people all over the country know where they really stand. Their conservative platitudes are meaningless. This isn't about purity or litmus tests or anything else. This is the Reagan wing of the Republican Party versus the Ford and Rockefeller wing of the Republican Party.
But right there, they quibble with that notion, and John Boehner did again today. I want you to respond to this, Mark, because he holds firm on this particular issue.
I'm as conservative as anybody around this place. And all the things that we've done over the 3 years that I've been Speaker have not violated any conservative principle, not once.
I think he was talking to you.
Well, all I know is coming right out of the box, the continuing resolution when he first became Speaker, he said he would not support what the President and the Democrats were doing, and then he buckled and buckled and buckled, and that set the stage for all the rest of it, the fiscal cliff, the debt ceiling, what's going on today. He's been an extremely weak Speaker. He's always whining about what power he doesn't have. I've seen strong speakers before. Can you imagine Tip O'Neill acting the way he acts? No way. Look at Harry Reid over there in the Senate. That guy, well, we're on TV. I won't say what I think of that guy, but that guy does pretty much damn near what he wants to do. So, no, I'm not impressed with this man. I just think the American people need to hear a leader. They need somebody to get up and challenge the president.
Who is that? Who is that going to be?
I don't know.
Who impresses you in the ranks or in the shadows right now? Who?
Look, there's a lot who impress me. I'll have to send you an email and think about it and give you a list of them. But my point is
right
now.
Could I mention some names? Ted Cruz. You speak very highly of him.
I'm a big fan of Ted Cruz, which is why the establishment in Washington can't stand the guy, because they keep saying, what can we do? What can we do? And not just the establishment, all their cheerleaders in the media, too. They all get the talking points, and they all repeat them, that, he was on a fool's errand. Fool's errand? He was trying to stop or at least remind the American people what was in Obamacare before it became the law on October 1st.
All right, Chris Christie.
Yeah, no way. Big
Why?
Government Republican? No way.
He says he can win. Look what he did in the blue state.
I'm interested in people who are winning, who are going to save the country. What did he do in New Jersey? He got the 49th worst property taxes in the state. Big deal.
Well, would Mark Levin prefer a Democrat over Chris Christie if he were the nominee?
No, I prefer a conservative Republican, and I don't accept the fact that I have to choose Chris Christie or a Democrat. I'm going to do everything I can to try and promote a conservative. And by the way, there are differences among conservatives, too. But people who aren't interested in bipartisan governance, people who are interested in bipartisan saving the nation, that's what I'm... But look, Neal, you do one of the best jobs of anybody on television explaining what we are facing fiscally. It is a disaster. This country's going to collapse. We can't continue to do this. So why should we participate in or cheer a $23 billion, and it's not even that, savings over 10 years, and then here, unless we control the presidency, the Senate, and the House, we can't do anything. You know what happened last time the Republicans controlled the presidency, the Senate, and the House? We had the second most profligate, the biggest spending in American history before this president. We had, people forget, bailouts, GM and Chrysler. We had a $152 billion stimulus. We had a $300 billion Recovery Act bill. We had all kinds of TARP going on under Republican control of Congress and the president.
No, you're right about that. You're right. There's precedent for this, and I think a lot of Republicans should just admit, as like you would at an AA meeting, I'm a recovering spender, and I'm trying to get over it. But you're quite right about that. I guess what I'm asking is because this comes up a lot, Mark, and I know you and I have discussed it before, this battle for the soul of the party, or whatever you want to call it. And I just noticed when Ken Langone, the billionaire investor and philanthropist, was on with me, he said, well, it's got to be someone like Christie who can win, and not these Tea Party loons, that's what he called them, who will only divide us, and that we have had a habit, I'm paraphrasing here, that is Republicans, of grabbing defeat from the jaws of victory, and we got to stop it. What do you say to that?
Thanks, Ken. I used to go to Home Depot. I guess I'll go to Lowe's now. But all that said, really...
I should explain, he is the co-founder of Home Depot. But go ahead.
But, yeah, that Romney was a real right-wing Tea Party activist, wasn't he? And that McCain, a real right-wing Tea Party activist, isn't he? And all these other guys that have been running the Republican Party, pouring their millions and billions, parts of their assets into these campaigns. They've done a hell of a job, haven't they? They can point to 2 or 3 conservative Tea Party activists who have lost Senate seats, and they repeat cycle after cycle the same names.
Are you for these challengers, these Republican intra-party challengers doing comments?
It depends who they are, but I certainly am for conservatives who are confident, knowledgeable, and capable and can raise money for defeating rhinos. Otherwise, what is the answer? Now, I have my own answer called the Liberty Amendments in my book. I think we should bypass Congress, the president, the courts, and go back to Article 5 under the Constitution and try and get the state legislatures to help, and we're working on that now. But Ken would consider me a loon, right? That $90 trillion unfunded liability, what would Ken Langone do about that? Does he have a proposal? What should we do, $23 billion over 10 years? Why do we fool ourselves this way? This is serious. If we don't tell the truth to the American people, then it's not a virtuous thing. And that's what we need to do, and that's what's lacking.
Mark Levin, it's always a pleasure. You're always very, very, very clear. I don't care where you folks stand, on the right or the left. That is a man who galvanizes a great deal of attention. And in a party lacking for a voice or some sort of clear vision, he provides it, whether you accept it or not. Mark Levin.